Good morning. Before I begin, what I'm going to be speaking about today might be a little hard to hear. I spoke with the nursery, and if anybody wants to send their children up to the nursery, I will be speaking about physical violence. So I just wanted everybody to know that. My name is Christine Wile, if you didn't know. A lot of you know that my dad is a pastor, but I'd like to let you know that I did not get any public speaking genes from him, so bear with me this morning. I had a meeting with Pastor Lindsay this week about our service today, and she asked me a question I don't think I've ever been asked before. She asked me, why is this something that I wanted to share with our congregation? I've shared my story before, but I don't really think I've been asked why. There's the obvious answer. If you didn't know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I think at first I used to share my story for me to process what I went through and maybe find a community of survivors that share similar stories to mine. Then it shifted to bringing awareness. Showing people that a smart woman raised in a good home and in the church could go through something like this. It can be anybody, no matter your race, gender, socioeconomic status. And finally, through much healing and prayer, I'm able to share with others how my faith played a part in my journey. So thank you, Pastors Lindsay and Amy, for giving me the chance to tell my story. My story, in which the events I've gone through 1,000 times in my head. But it's not really just my story, is it? It could be your neighbor's story, your friend's story, your favorite Starbucks barista's story, or a stranger that you pass on the sidewalk. So as you listen to my story today, don't think of me. Think of all the people this year and every year that experience intimate partner violence. And just like some of them, I was young and I thought that I had met the perfect man, my soulmate, the one. On April of 2012, I met Mark through a mutual friend. He was kind and smart and charming and cute, all the qualities you look for in a potential partner. After weeks of chatting, he invited me into his home for our first date. A home-cooked meal that we made together. I finally met someone that made me feel so special. Maybe I'd really got it right this time. Our relationship progressed into date nights, presents, and the princess treatment until we had our first argument. There was yelling, words exchanged, but nothing out of the ordinary thought for a regular relationship. We slept on it, apologized, and made up. That was a regular relationship, right? Working through the hard parts. Eventually, we were spending so much time together, we decided to move in with each other. I was thrilled. He had a pretty nice house, and there was lots of room. More date nights and fun times were ahead. Not much time had passed when the red flags started popping up. The thing about being in love is sometimes you are blinded. You make excuses and come up with anything to defend them. I saw my friends less and less, but it's because he wanted to spend so much time with me, right? It was still exciting and new, and I wanted to spend all my time with him also. He didn't want me to go out at night with my friends, but he was just worried about my safety. So we went out together, just me and him. He told me he really didn't like my clothes, but he just wanted us to look good as a couple. Little sacrifices, give and take. I kept telling myself this is how you maintain a serious relationship. But was he sacrificing, or was it just me? We had our ups and downs, but the fighting was getting louder and the jealousy was growing. Why doesn't he trust me? What am I doing wrong? Why was he so angry? I fixed my hair, he said it wasn't good enough. I changed my wardrobe, he said it wasn't nice enough. I put makeup on, now that's too much. I was trying to find the sweet spot to make him say, "You're beautiful" again. Like in the beginning. I didn't realize I was losing myself, how much control he had over me already. But he said he loved me. He said no one would love me like he does. I was the one for him. Then the night came. He hit me. I had no friends to tell anymore. I was too embarrassed to tell my family. I was filled with shame. He loved me. How could he do that? What did I do to provoke him? He told me he loved me. He told me how sorry he was. He bought me flowers, and he said it would never happen again. But then he hit me again. I tried to be perfect because he didn't just hit me when we argued anymore. It was when I didn't wash the dishes well enough. It was when I bought the wrong kind of hot dogs at the store. Or when I didn't make his grilled cheese just like he wanted. How could this have gone so wrong? Over and over he told me, he convinced me, no one would want me but him. I wasn't good enough, and he would hurt me if I left him. By this time, I was a regular at many places. The doctor, because he had kicked my arm so hard, I thought it was broken. The optometrist, because he slammed my head into the wall and broke my glasses. And the ER, because the pain from the punch to my stomach wouldn't go away. The threats continued over and over for months. He would tell me if I told anyone, he would kill me, and I believed him. Our neighbors called the cops on us for fighting too loudly, and I thought I was saved. God had answered my prayers. All I had to do was say he hit me. He was staring right at me, and I couldn't get the words out. Too scared, too ashamed. I was just another woman who didn't leave, just another statistic. The interaction gave me courage to finally break up with him, but it just made things worse. I was trapped. I'd contacted an organization that helped women get out of abusive relationships. They told me they couldn't help me unless I was willing to move all the way to Sioux City. I had no money to move. Unfortunately, they were very unpleasant and unhelpful. Eventually, I gave up on them, and I was giving up on myself. About a year into our relationship, we were forced to move. I remember my mom didn't want me to put my name on the lease. I don't think she had suspected anything, but I think she just didn't want me to be tied to anyone so soon. What she didn't know was I really didn't have a choice. I didn't know, and I didn't want to find out what he would do to me if I didn't sign. A few months later, into our new home, he was riled up about something, and I blew up. I lost it. I told him I wouldn't be hit anymore. I yelled and I yelled that it was over. He was shocked. He didn't answer. Could it be that he was letting me go? Was I free? The next day, like always, I received a big, beautiful bouquet of flowers at my work. I was praying they weren't from him, but of course they were. Here we go again. The flowers and presents and groveling. I kept my strength. I had no idea how or had the money to break my lease, so even though I stayed broken up with him, we continued to live together. And he turned into a completely different person. He gave me my space. He was nice. He was charming. He was the man I met a year and a half ago. But I wasn't falling for it. Some time went by and he started dating someone. I was getting my life back. Looks like this might ride out until our lease was up. But it didn't. I was at work one night and he trashed my bedroom, sent me pictures of it. Furious, I came home and started packing. I had nowhere to go, but I couldn't stay here. Then the old Mark came out. yelling if I walk out that door, he would make me disappear and kill my family. I barricaded myself in my room and finally had the courage to call my dad. I told him Mark was a psycho and I didn't have a lock on my bedroom door, so he told me to call the police, run to my car, and lock myself in till the police showed up. When the police came, I had the courage for what felt like the first time. I broke down and told them everything, the threats, the beatings, all of it. But that night, I got away from Mark so fast that he wasn't able to hit me, so the police couldn't do anything. How is that possible? I was too late. He was gonna get away with all of it, everything he did to me. How is this fair? How could my God let this happen? Thankfully, I had one friend left who I was able to stay with, so I could stay in town and keep my job. The police escorted me to my house so I could get my stuff, and the landlord let me out of the lease after I told her everything he had done to me. Once again, I felt free. I got my own apartment, I was doing well at work, I was making new friends, and trying to mend the relationships of my old friends. I even started going back to church to mend my relationship with God. I had been so mad at him for so long. 6 months later, I got a text from Mark. But now I was ready. I was confident and I was strong. On May 15th, 2014, he texted me that he was moving out of state. I thought, now this really is an answer to my prayers. No more looking over my shoulder, wondering if he was right around the corner, feeling like he would come back to hurt me. I agreed to go to his house after work to gather some things that I still had there. I got there around 7:30. We made small talk. He told me he wanted to be friends, which I quickly declined. As I went to grab the apples he had offered me on top of the fridge, it was lights out. I woke up on a cold concrete basement floor with his hands around my neck, running out of air. I could feel the darkness coming over my eyes, and I thought this was it. He finally got me. I had put my life back together for nothing. When he finally got off me, I realized I was in so much pain, I couldn't move. Every breath I took was excruciating. I lay there listening to him talk, but my head was so fuzzy, like I was in a dream. I told him I couldn't move, and he said, "That's what happens when you get stabbed. I wouldn't have had to stab you if you weren't fighting back so hard." I must have blacked it out. I couldn't remember anything of what happened before I woke up in the basement. When I looked down at myself, I could see the rip through my shirt. He had stabbed me in my chest. He proceeded to lay me on a tarp, worried I would get blood on the floor. He slid me over to a pole, took out a long orange extension cord, and wrapped it around my hands and feet, looped it through cinder blocks and around the pole. Through the night, he went up and down the stairs to eat, post on social media, and talk on the phone. Every time he would come back down, he would ask me if I wanted to die quickly or bleed out slowly. My whole body would shiver and shake, making it harder to breathe. How long could I lay here before I bleed out? How long can I close my eyes before they won't open again? I asked him if I could talk to my parents one last time. I knew he would say no, but I had to try. I had to tell them I loved them and say goodbye, because I knew I had given up. I knew this was the end. I lay there praying to God to welcome me in his arms, even though I had given up on him too. I knew it was getting late. Mark had mentioned needing to go to sleep, something I don't mention to a lot of people, is when he asked me where he should sleep. I felt foolish for wanting him to stay in the basement with me, but I didn't want to die alone on a cold floor all by myself. He made a makeshift bed, set his alarm, and went to sleep. I was so afraid to close my eyes. I laid there again, waiting for it to be over. I have believed in heaven my whole life. Was that enough to get there? The sun had come up after Mark's alarm went off, and he was visibly mad that I was still alive. He got ready for work, tightened the cord that was wrapped around my body, and blasted the music upstairs so no one would hear me yell. Every time I tried to move, my body felt like it was on fire. But I looked up at the ceiling, and I felt a strength. I don't know if it was my voice or God's voice, but it was saying, am I really gonna go down without a fight? I kicked off my boots. I got one foot loose. I thought that was too easy. Did he want me to escape? Was he letting me go, thinking I would be too afraid to tell anyone? I somehow got my hands and my other foot free, trying not to think too much on how that was even possible. That seemed like the easy part compared to standing up. I took shallow breaths, trying to dim the pain. My eyes kept watering, and I could hardly see anything. I couldn't lift my arms up enough to push the cellar door open. Feeling it was impossible, I grabbed a broom handle and punched through the chicken wire that was covering a window that was not much bigger than I was. Now all I had to do was climb out. All I had to do was push it forward, lift myself up, and climb out. By the time I was on the other side of the grass, I couldn't understand how I just scaled a basement wall and lifted myself out a window that was too high for me to reach. Had God really paid attention to my prayers specifically? Were miracles actually real? I got up and headed down the sidewalk, not knowing if Mark was still in sight. I made it as far as the neighbor's house that shared our side yard. I rang the doorbell, and a small child came to the door with his mom telling him to get away from me. I could see my reflection in her storm door. My eyes were bloodshot and swollen. My clothes were disheveled, and I didn't have any shoes on. I was hunched over, grasping for breath. I told his mother, Amy, that I had been stabbed and I needed help. She helped me stand as she called 911 and waited with me for the ambulance. I don't remember much after the ambulance ride, but I heard the paramedics say that I didn't have any breath sounds on the left. My lung had collapsed. I was life-flighted to Des Moines and spent the week recovering. I had countless visitors. My mom never left my side, but everything was kind of a blur. I struggled over the next 5 years to understand why this happened. Why me? Where was God? I was so angry and I had so many questions. I heard over and over from everybody, well, by the grace of God. God got you out of that basement, and thank God you are okay. It made me angry for a long time. I got me out of that basement. I was the one who fought back. I endured so much pain. I did the impossible. But did I? Was I truly alone? I had no strength left, yet here I am. I went for months thinking, what's the point in being alive anymore? But I still woke up every morning. Later, I found out my neighbor whose house I went to for help that day just happened to stay home with her son for no reason at all. And her husband was a retired cop, so she knew exactly how to help me in that exact situation. I climbed out of a basement window with my eyes swollen shut and a collapsed lung. I was not alone. I have never been alone, and I will never be alone. I met an incredibly broken man who did incredibly awful things to me. God didn't allow that to happen, but he didn't leave me either. I didn't go through it alone. If you are struggling in life, if you are suffering from anything, if you are a victim or a survivor of domestic violence, there will come a moment, a time, when your tears won't be from pain or waiting, but from joy. Because the same God you cried out to, the same God you cried out to in pain, will be the one who answers you right on time. Hold on. He's always there. Thanks be to God.